Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is Friday and we're going to be doing a review of the Tim Holtz Woodless Watercolor Pencils by Ranger. These are all three sets, so we have set number 1, set number 2, and set number 3. And we will be swatching them together and taking a look at them. I don't do watercolor a lot, so I am not in any way, shape, or form an expert on any of these things, on how they're supposed to work or anything like that. I just know what I like when it comes to watercolor. So if I say something incorrect, just let me know. Please be kind with it because, like I said, I have not ever used this product before and I am not an expert in watercolor. So it says here, distress pencils are woodless watercolor pencils formulated to achieve vibrant coloring effects on a porous surface. The solid water reflective pigments are ideal for watercoloring, shading, sketching, and more. Color directly on the surface and blend with water. Very cool. Layer with distressed inks, oxide sprays, and so forth. Okay, so we've got the colors here: pickled raspberry, fire brick, rusty orange, mustard seed, peeled paint, savage patina, speckled eggs, salty ocean, villainous potions, walnut stain, black soot, and picket fence. And I have all of these colors, well, not all of them, but most of these colors in um, my small little distress ink packets as well. All right, so there's a little plastic cover here. That's kind of cool. Huh. Now, how does it come off, or does it? Interesting. So it actually pops right out. That's cool. Okay, so it slips right on in there, in the edge there, so you can put it back on and protect your pencils. That's interesting. So I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a piece of plastic that pops right on into the edge here, and you can protect your pencils with them after you've used them. That is really cool. All right, so we're going to pop this off. We're going to do the set number 1 first. We're going to put set 1 here. And we're going to start with our, let's do them in the order that the back is so that I can pickled raspberry, fired brick, and these just came in, so I really haven't had time to do a proper chart for them. I guess I could have used my ink chart because I think I have most of these in my inks. So I hope everybody's having a wonderful Friday and is ready for the weekend and for the new year. It's always an exciting time or a frightening time, whichever. Um, I hope that the new year is better for some people. Some people have had a really rough go of it the past couple of years. And I hope that the new year is the year where things start getting a little bit easier, a little bit less stressful. All right. I know this is the boring part. Okay, the rest of them I'll write as we go because that's really boring. I'm going to zoom you in a little bit so you can see the pencil as well as, that's kind of cool. That's interesting. Oh, okay, so that's, okay. I was wondering what was going on here, why that was lighter than this, and it's just paper. So I'm going to zoom you in. I haven't looked at these, so these are very new to me. If they're not new to you and you're all sitting there going, doofus, don't mind me, I'm fine. So this is pickled raspberry, and I'm going to just color down at the bottom here, and then we'll drag it up with the um, water with the paintbrush. So I've got some water here, and I've got some paper towel and that sort of thing. I'm going to put a good layer down. It kind of feels like crayon. Not sure. I think it's just a coating that's on them because now that I've gotten past that initial area, it's going down much easier. So it covers very nicely, has a nice bright color. Let's see how it moves with water. So I'm just going to dab that off so that we don't. So it definitely can move around with water. It's actually really pretty. I like that. That's pretty. All right, the next one is fired brick. Again, we're going to break through that barrier. Not sure if it's a coating or get a good layer down. One of these coatings I'm going to leave the white spot showing through, see if we can blend that white spot out with the water. Now this is not watercolor paper, this is just heavy cardstock, but it works well for swatching, so with the watercolors and that sort of thing. It's a nice color too, even thinned out. Now I can also put these on the palette and pick up the color that way as well. But I wanted to see how it did on the paper. This one is Rusty Hinge. It's a nice color on the paper just by itself too. I've been wanting these for a while, well, pretty much since they came out, because, I need all the pencils. But these ones I really kind of wanted because I have the distressed inks, and when I got the distressed inks, I really did consider purchasing these, but I put them on my Christmas list, and they didn't get purchased from my Christmas list, so I purchased them myself. Which, my husband knows about, so don't be telling, don't be going, well, you shouldn't have done, No, my husband knows, so. That's pretty. I like it thinned out better than I like it directly on the page. Even directly on the page, it's a pretty color, but. Now for mustard seed. Now mustard seed in the ink is a bit of a browny yellow. So this being a nice bright yellow is actually really good. I like that because I like the mustard seed yellow that's in the ink, but it's not as bright as I would like it to be for doing some of the sunset backgrounds that I do with it. Oh, that's nice, yeah. It's a nice bright yellow, even thinned out. It's a nice bright yellow. I like it. I like it a lot. This one is peeled paint. So it's an olivey green color, almost an army green. I'm also going to grab one of my sharpeners and see if they will sharpen the same way that a regular woodless pencil sharpens, or if I need to get a special sharpener for them. But I think they should sharpen just fine, just like the woodless pencils do. Yeah, that's a nice green too. Nice yellow, olivey kind of green. I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. And this is Savage Patina, which is one of my favorite blues in my ink set. So this is a little bit more concentrated than the ink, I think, or a little bit more light blue color. I'd have to pull down my inks to find out. But it's not a review about my inks, so yeah. I will go through and compare them to the inks as well. I have the swatch chart in the swatch book. I like the thinned out color as well. This may be a little bit easier to put down for backgrounds and stuff like that, and or for actual coloring than the inks will be. The inks work great for doing large areas and stuff like that, but I think for doing the smaller areas and spreading it around into our larger areas, these will work really well. The one I just put down is Speckled Egg, which is a really light gray blue, and it's just almost see-through. That is like really light, really light color. Like I can barely see it, but it's there. There is still color there. It's just not very bright. The next one is a Salty Ocean. So let's get that one down. And of course my ink from my printer is running a little bit, so there's a little bit of a black runoff there. That's just from the printer ink moving with the water. That's why I'm trying not to get the color too close to the edges. And more than likely, you can take the color directly from the pencil with these. Oh, that's pretty. That is a pretty blue. See if it completely dissolves or if it leaves that line. That's pretty. That is a pretty blue. I like it. This one here is Villainous Potion, which is a purple. Which I also have in the distressed inks as well. Now I'm going to leave this one fairly choppy. I want to see if I can fill in that white spot with the water and the breakdown of the material. Yep, and I can still spread it around. Now it's not as vibrant, but you can definitely probably go over it as well. Now another thing we'll test later is whether or not these will reactivate, which I do believe they do. This one is called Walnut Stain. Let's actually stay in the view of the camera here. Just getting a good heavy coat of the color so that we have something to move around. That one seems to have a bit of a build-up on it. I bought these off of Amazon, so I don't know how long they've been in the warehouse and that sort of thing, so could have been all year. But yeah, that's a good brown as well. The next one is black soot. So this should be our darkest color. And I know the black soot ink takes a couple of layers to get it very, very dark in areas, so it'll be interesting to see how dark this stays with water. But just laying it down, it's pretty dark. It's pretty black. Now water is going to thin out that darkness, but we'll see how much. I think that's not too bad. I haven't broken down all of the pigment because I put down quite a bit. But that's not too bad at all. I have seen worse blacks when it comes to watercolor. I've seen better ones, but I've seen worse ones. It may take a couple of layers to build that black up to be a really, really dark black, but you know, it's watercolor. We know it's going to have that translucency. And this is white. And of course, it's white. So this one is picket fence. And it is definitely white. And we're going to drag that up. Nope, definitely white. All right, so that one is done. So we've gotten through number 1. Now we're going to open up number 2. I'm going to pop that over here. And number 2 has Kitsch Flamingo, Barn Door, Spiced Marmalade, Fossilized Amber, Twisted Citron, Cracked Pistachio, Mermaid Lagoon, Ice Spruce, Prize Ribbon, Seedless Preserves, Antique Linen, and Vintage Photo. Now you have probably seen reviews for these 6 billion times to none. So if if I'm boring, then I'm sorry. All right, so let's do the Kitsch Flamingo. Now this is one of my favorite pinks in the distressed inks. So I hope it's nice here as well. It's a nice light pink. All right. So as you can see, just with the lay down, it's a lot lighter than the pickled raspberry. All right. Then we're going to get some water. And oh yeah, that's going to be a really pretty pale pink with painting. That's actually really pretty. It's very, very light. You may not even be able to see it very well. Might be able to see it better there. But it's a very, very pale pink. Very lovely. The next one is barn door, which is a nice red color. Yeah, that's a lovely red color. It's got a little tinge of a brown in it, but that may just be because of the layer I put down. A little bit of an orangey red browny color. But spread out, it's actually a very lovely red color. Now I'm just letting these air dry. I'm not drying them with a dryer because I don't want to deal with the noise. Bob's got a bit of a headache, so I'll let him not deal with the noise of it. This one here is spiced marmalade. Make sure I spell it right. Oh, it's a lovely orange. I think it's a little bit lighter than the ink, but it's a lovely color. It may also just be my eyesight saying it's lighter. That's the joys of eyesight and perspective. So everybody's perspective is a little bit different. It's actually a nice bright orange color. It just looked a little bit lighter in its base form there. This one is fossilized amber, which is a nice bright yellow. Fossilized. How do you spell that, Renee? And it's going to be a darker yellow than the mustard seed. But I see what they have done with the set, so we'll talk about that after. Each set has a good blend of the colors in it. All right, now we're going to put the water to it. And as you can see, it's still a nice bright yellow, but it is darker than the mustard yellow. It's got a little touch of that brownish undertone to it. Now we have cracked pistachio. I think these are maybe, yeah, these are in the wrong order. It should be citron twist. Twisted citron, whichever. Twisted citron. So from the looks of it so far, each set has a red, a pink, an orange, a yellow, a green, a couple of blues, a purple, and then the darker colors, grays and browns and blacks and whites and that sort of thing. So this is the Twisted Citron, which is a little bit of yellow and a little bit of green. So it gives you that lime kind of color. It's a very nice, bright green color. I think that coloration is off a little bit. Let me fix that. Let's bring that contrast and brightness down just a little bit, because I think it's giving you a false color showing. That's better. That's more like it. It's a nice bright yellow green. And then we have Cracked Pistachio, which is a bluey green. It's also one of the ones I use a lot when I use my inks for things like water and stuff like that. I don't use my inks a whole lot, but it is one of the ones I gravitate towards when I'm using them. That's pretty. It thins it out really nice, gives it a nice light coating of that color, which is the same with the Savage Patina, just a little bit more green to it than the Savage Patina. And then we have Mermaid Lagoon. This one feels like it's been sharpened. It's a nice bluey, not a greeny blue, but a bluey green, kind of color. Actually, once you blend it out, it's actually a really nice blue. And as you can see, you're able to, with the water, completely dissolve that pigment, which is really good. The next one is Iced Spruce. Which is that gray-blue kind of color. It even has a touch of green in it. It's a really interesting color. So these are Distress watercolors, just like the Distress inks from Ranger. And they do have all of the same names as your distressed inks. So you can mix and match them together and work them together. So that's really kind of cool. I like that. This one here is Prize Ribbon, which is a really bright blue. I think the spruce is in the wrong spot too. Nope, it's in the right spot. And the Prize Ribbon is a lovely dark blue. I use it a lot when I'm making blacker. Like if I'm doing a night sky, I'll use a mixture of Prize Ribbon, the black, and the Villainous Potion together so that it gives the sky look. Because very few skies are just straight black. That's pretty too. It's a good change from the dark color that it is directly to the lighter medium tone it is after you add the water to it. Now we have Seedless Preserves, which is a lovely dark red violet color. And once we get the swatching done, what we'll do is we'll do a couple of tests on the back. By the time we're done with the swatching and going through the pencils themselves, everything on the front should be dry, and then we can do some testing on the back on reactivation, on dry times, the whether or not they smudge if they're not dry, or not wet. I mean, if they're smudgeable when they're put down dry and left dry. Things like that. Because it does say that you don't have to wet them. You can use them dry as regular pencils. You don't have to use them as watercolor pencils, I should say. This is Antique Linen. So here's our white tone. It's a yellowy, creamy gray, white kind of color. It's actually a really, really pretty color. I use it a lot when I'm doing parchment. It's the one I'll grab when I want to do a parchment color or a tablecloth, things like that. But it does work great for parchment colors. And it just melts away. That's awesome. And the lightness of it is really, really good. That'll work really good for parchment. And this one here is Vintage Photo. So this is going to be more of a sepia kind of color, sepia, whichever you want to call it. If you look at vintage photos or really old pictures, instead of black and white, they're actually got the sepia color instead of the black. It's either the black is turned into the sepia color or they use sepia instead of black, whichever. I'm not quite positive, but I've seen plenty of vintage photos. That's a really, really good light brown once it's wet down. And that is number 2. So we're going to put number 2 over here. Set number 3 has Tattered Rose, Candied Apple, Crackling Fire, Wild Honey, Crushed Olive, Rustic Wilderness, Peacock Feathers, Tumbled Glass, Faded Jeans, Shaded Lilac, and Frayed Burlap, as well as Hickory Smoke. So it's got some really, really good colors in it for pretty much anything that you do. So with looking at these and the way that they are set up with each different set, if you did not want to buy all of the sets, you can definitely do pretty much everything with each set. Each set has a good arrangement of the light, medium, and dark colors, as well as the colors that you would need for landscapes and things like that. This one here is Tattered Rose, so it is another pink. So this is 2 and this is 3. But it's more of a peachy pink. So you could definitely use this for your skin tones, for anything like that. If you're doing a light skin tone or even the peachy tone that dark skin tones have in the cheeks and the lips and that sort of thing. Sometimes it's more of a purple that I would use, but sometimes I use a bit of this peachy tone just to tone down areas that I've made too dark. Oh yeah, that would work really nice for a light skin tone. It's very, very pale, but it's a very nice pale peach tone. This one here is Candied Apple. It's going to be a really bright red, just like candied apples are. This is one of my favorite reds in the distressed inks that I have as well. If I want a red, it's the one I grab for. Barn Door is a fantastic darker red to work with, the candied red. So if you're doing a darker shadow, you can either use your black or you can use your black and the Barn Door to give you a really deep shadow. Again, like I said, I am not at all an expert in watercolor whatsoever. Actually, I'm really a very amateur, not even student level, more childlike kind of level with it. But I do enjoy playing with it, and I do enjoy the distressed inks and watercolors, especially for backgrounds. And this one here is Crackling Fire. But I have been coloring quite some time and have gotten to a point where I can pick colors quite easily. And that's just with coloring for a lengthy period of time. Sometimes it's difficult to pick colors, and when it is difficult to pick colors, that's the great thing about color cubes or um, apps or books that have the different palettes in it, where you can easily just do a palette challenge, grab one of those palettes and use it instead of having to pick those colors yourself. 9 times out of 10, the palettes are very complementary, so the colors that are in those palettes work really well together. So if you have troubles picking colors, sometimes those palettes are really good for that. The Crackling Fire is a lovely darker orange, which is fantastic to have, especially if you are doing flames or pumpkins or things like that. It's a nice, ready, deep orange. The next one we're going to use is a Wild Honey, which is a nice yellow, but it's got a little bit of a brown to it, just like honey. It's got a golden kind of color to it. Very pretty color. Just laying it down this way is quite nice. The coverage on these softer colors is really good. It's just coating the page, which is great. The paper that I'm using is a very smooth paper. It's a very heavy 110 cardstock. I use that because of the water aspect of it. We might be able to do some testing on coloring book pages a little bit later on. I am going to be using these probably tomorrow in a coloring book. I have a buddy color with somebody that I want to get started fairly soon, and I figure what we can do is we can do that while we talk about the changes on the channel tomorrow. That's actually a really pretty color. The black streak is from the ink of the printer ink, so don't worry about that. Just ignore it. It's not there. This one is crushed olive. And just like the name says, I expect this to be more of an olivey green, mixture of yellow, green, and a little touch of brown. Watching it lay down, it's more of a yellow olivey green, but we'll see how it does when it is thinned out a little bit. It's got that touch of brown to it. It's not as brown as I would expect it to be. I find this more of an olive green than the one that says it's crushed olive. Well, more of an army green, I guess. That's a quite a yellow green. It's actually pretty. I'd almost use that as a yellow. It's quite bright. But it has that green undertone to it, so if you look at it when it's dry, it'll probably pick up more of that green undertone. I guess I should have put the name of this one down first, huh? So this one here is Rustic Wilderness, and it is one of the greens I go to if I'm using my distressed inks with landscapes and trees and stuff like that. If I want to do greens, especially darker greens, I will grab the Rustic Wilderness. Learn how to spell. Don't worry about the mistakes. I will be correcting those with when I create the swatch chart because I'll be typing it all out and making it all pretty. This is just an initial swatch so that I can use them and know what colors are in here and what colors I'm going to need to do the page that we've chosen for our buddy color. That's a nice color. With the distressed inks, it's quite a dark color, and the paint brush actually lightens that up quite a bit and gives a really nice dark green color. This one is Peacock Feather. Which of course is going to have that teal, darker teal blue color. So it's going to definitely be one of those lovely colors that you would use in the depths of your water areas or glass areas. And it does break down really nicely. Very nice. A really pretty blue-green kind of color. More of a blue, I think. They're just all so pretty. And now we have Tumbled Glass. And this may be a better way for people to get the same colors as the distressed inks without having to pay as much for the set as you would distressed inks. I do believe that the watercolor pencils for the full set is cheaper than buying a set of distressed inks with all the same colors in it. Distressed inks can be a little bit expensive, especially if you're going with something larger than a mini. So tumbled glass is going to be another very pale blue with a slight teal undertone. It is very pretty, and it just dissolves like butter. That's really nice. All right, the next one is Faded Jeans. Another blue. Oh, I went the wrong way. Oh well. We'll have a little darker up there. It's okay. For some reason my brain went, well, cover the whole thing. That's going to be way too much color. But we will color an entire area on the back and not just spread the color around to see what it does look like completely colored in. That's actually really pretty too. My brush isn't quite wet enough here. That's actually really pretty too. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, the next one is Shaded Lilac. This will be a nice light purple. Go put down a good layer. It does have a coating on it, so I can actually feel the coating as it wears away. The difference is between the feeling of the coating on it and the feeling of the pencil itself on the paper. It's the strangest feeling. Now get some water. It's a purpley kind of blue color. I was expecting it to be a little bit lighter than that. I think my Shaded Lilac in my Distressed Inks is a little bit lighter than that. A little bit more palish color. This one here is Frayed Burlap. Which is going to be a medium toned to light toned brown color. Kind of like the color of burlap. Just saying. There we go. Definitely a good color for your sandy kind of colors and that sort of thing. It's a very nice tan brown color when it's spread out. And the last one is Hickory Smoke. All right. I'll Oh, this is going to be a nice gray. Looks like it has a touch of warmth to it, so it's definitely a warmer gray than one with a touch of blue to it, cooling it off. And that spreads really nicely too. It's a nice light gray once it's spread out. It looks really good. Really good. So looking at this swatch chart, you can see your pinks are here, your reds are here, your oranges are here. And then it shifts over slightly and puts 2 oranges in this area and brings your yellows down here, your greens down here. Your blues, you've got a good 9 blues. Your purples, your browns, so you've got a good 4 browns, and then your gray, black, and white. So there is in the full set a really good arrangement of colors. Either dry or wet, you're going to have a really good arrangement of colors. I'm going to try these dry and try to do a blend on this flower down here with them dry. I'm not going to add any water to them. And we're going to see how well they blend together just as pencil, because it does say that you can use them dry to shade and color. So let's give that a try, see if we can blend those colors together to create the same thing that we would if we were coloring with regular pencils. The first thing I am going to try is sharpening them. So I've got a regular sharpener here. This is a Mr. Pen sharpener, and I'm going to use it on the large side, and they do sharpen quite nice. Now, if you use a clean sharpener, one that you're not going to use for anything else, you can easily take those shavings and utilize them for adding to the water and creating a spray, or to put them on your palette and create a bit of watercolor with them. So you don't have to throw those out. If you want to just grab a palette and sharpen them into a palette and just keep them in that palette, you can definitely do that. So I'm using the pickled raspberry first as our darker color. And if you want, I can bring you a little bit closer. Yeah, let's zoom you in just a touch more so you can see. Let's take that down a notch. I don't know why it's so. It is a nice dark bright color, but it's not as saturated as it's showing on the camera. I don't know why it's showing as dark on the camera. It's really picking it up. Which is fine. It's a nice, really bright, nice color, so. Even directly on paper, it's actually a very pretty bright pink, dark pink color. All right, now we're going to use the Kitsch Flamingo, and we're going to go right into, yeah, see, it's not blending as well as I would expect with a pencil. but these are watercolor pencils, so I didn't expect them to blend as beautifully as, say, an oil-based pencil or uh, Caran d'Ache, a Prisma, or any of those, where you have that ability to bring those colors together a little bit more without the harsh line. We will give it a shot here in a little bit and see if we can blend all of those together to create that gradients without the harsh line. We'll do that on the back. I don't want to do it on here because the water is going to pick up all of that black off of the ink. So I don't want to. I know my printer ink isn't dry enough. It hasn't sat overnight or anything. So I know that my printer ink is not dry enough to not have that bleed of the ink into the color. So it didn't do too badly. Um, let's try adding this up here into that lighter color. Yeah, definitely would suggest if you are going to use these dry that you go light to dark, because going dark to light gives you a bit of a harsher line, but going from light to dark it smooths it out quite a bit more. So I would definitely go into the next time I would definitely go from light to dark from what I'm seeing here. Lesson learned, lesson learned. So yeah, light to dark just to keep that dark color from having that harder edge. Lesson learned. So let's do light to dark here on this one here. So we're going to start with our lightest color, which is the Tattered Rose, which is a nice peachy tone. And we're going to cover the whole thing. And then we're going to go in with our next color, which is Kitsched Flamingo. And we're going to do our medium tone areas. Bringing that all the way out so that we can put that dark area in under here. And as you can see, the dark area isn't as in your face. It still gives that darker shadow, but it blends into those lighter colors better than blending those lighter colors into it. So definitely lesson learned. You will definitely want to go from your light to your dark so that your dark has something to blend into and eliminate that harsh border line where you stop your dark color. So definitely lesson learned. All right, so I think this is dry enough now. We're going to flip this over and we're going to just take the pinks that we already have in our hand here because they're the one pink from each set. So with the pinks we're going to do a gradient. So we're going to start, I'm just going to make sure that my area is dry here. We're going to start with our dark, and we're going to see if we can drag this into each color, creating a gradient line. And make sure I'm on screen here. Just putting down enough color that is going to be picked up by the water. Now I'm not blending these together as a dry pencil at this point. I'm blending these together as a water blend, and see if we can get a gradient blend with adding water to it. And then the last one is going to be that peachy tone. So we've got Tattered Rose, Kitsch Flamingo, and Pickled Raspberry in a row there. We're going to take our water brush and we're going to start here, and we're going to break this down, bring it in. Oh, should always go the other way. Let's go this way. Always start with watercolor, always start with your light. Otherwise you're going to take too much of that dark in there. But it does blend well into each other. So it did do that, the gradient blend quite nicely, and eliminated those lines, except for the ones I added. Alright, so now I'm going to do an area, just straight color. And we're not going to drag this out. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to see how well we can use the water as just a blend, so that we can color an area with the pencils directly and just blend it with the water without using a blender pencil. And then we'll also try it with a blender pencil and see how well that works as well. So I'm not going to take the color outside of the line, keeping it in the line and just moving it around so that we can blend that color into all of that white spot, and that works pretty well. Alright, now we're going to take, let's take a red, just because red is one of those colors that shows white spot really well. And we're just going to put the red down very light, well, not lightly, but thinly, loosely over the paper, allowing that white spot to show through. And then we're going to take our Caran d'Ache blender, and we're just going to see if this will blend with the Caran d'Ache blender. And it definitely does. It does remove the white spot and does brighten the color a little bit. Now the trick is does this seal it from the water? Can I still use water to move this? And I cannot. So it does seal it from the water. So if you have an area that you want to color with these and want to seal that so that other areas that you're using water on around it, so that you don't get movement in that area, you can just use your Caran d'Ache blender and seal that in, which is really kind of cool. Alright, now we're going to take this one here. Let's use Crackling Campfire, and we're going to see how far we can drag that color along. And this will be the final test of the pigmentation, as well as the ability to use water or not use water on this type of medium. Alright, last one is we're going to take it and we're going to break down all that pigment, moving it along and dragging it out and seeing how far we can drag that. And we can drag that quite a ways before it gets too thin. So a lot of pigment in here. As you can see, I can drag that quite far. So plenty of pigment in there. So definitely don't need as much as you would think on there. Alright guys, so those are all the tests that we're going to do for those. We're going to take a quick look at all of the colors and that sort of thing. Make sure I get these all in the right order. I'll go back through them. We'll take a look at the pencils themselves. I'm going to wave this around, let it dry before I put it back on my desk. Um, and then we'll take a look at the tests as well. So we're going to put this up here for a sec. So each of the pencils has a paper cover on it that says Distress Watercolor Pencil and the color name. And that's all they say on them. So they don't have the company logo or anything else on them. You can, as you sharpen these, it will start sharpening down into the paper. So don't worry too much about that. I have the woodless colored pencils, and that's all that happens is you just sharpen it down. It just sharpens away the paper with it. You can easily color these on a palette and pick them up with your water brush as well as color them directly on your paper. Each little set, there's 3 little sets. They are sold separately, or you can purchase them all at once. But each little set has their own little box, a little cover, which you can use as a palette or you can use as a protector, especially if your pencils are wet. They have all of the colors on the back, as well as information about the makeup of the media. So a great little set, and I think I will be using these on a page. Like I said, I have a buddy color with Poet Spice in one of the new books that I got for Christmas, and I think I'm going to use these in that with color pencil over top. So stay tuned for that. That we will do tomorrow during our live stream coloring. Now let's take a quick review of the tests and the colors. I'm going to zoom you out just a little bit here. So if you get motion sickness, look away. Here we go. So we've got set number 1 with pickled raspberry, fired brick, rusty hinge, mustard seed, peeled paint, savage patina, speckled egg, salty ocean, villainous potion, walnut stain, black soot, and picket fence. So if you look at this pretty much diagonally, each set has a level of color family in it. So each set has a level of pink, each set has a level of red, each set has a level of orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and so forth. So all of these sets put together make a really good full 36 set. However, if you only wanted to purchase set number 1 just to try them out, you have a mixture of those colors. If you do mostly landscapes and that sort of thing, I would definitely suggest set 3. If you do a lot of aquatics and that sort of thing, also probably set 3. No, set 2 would be best for you if you do a lot of aquatic things. They've got the more orange, or not more orange, more green, blue colors and that sort of thing. If you do an arrangement of things, set 1 would be a good one for you as well. I have full set syndrome and I prefer to have them all. So that's what I have. So definitely does do a gradient movement with water. You can definitely just color one area and blend with the water. They do blend with the Caran d'Ache blender, and this also gives a waterproof coating over top of them. So if you have an area that you want to color and have a thick color on, you can definitely color it, cover it with your Caran d'Ache blender, and then do the watercolor around it. It does spread very far, so a heavy amount of water isn't necessary, or a heavy amount of pigment isn't necessary. Now that these are dry, the last test we're going to do is see if we can reactivate this pigment after it's been activated. and we'll go the opposite direction. Now, as you can see, even though it does reactivate a little bit, it's definitely not as dark as if, and that may just be the leftover pigment that was there. So it may not even reactivate with water. So that is something we'll have to test at another time. Or we can just see if we have one that, yeah, shaded lilac. There's no pigment left on shaded lilac. So let's see if we can pull that color out. Yeah, it does reactivate a little bit with water. So be careful when you're going over something that you've already painted, even though it's dry. You may find that it reactivates. All right, guys, so that is the woodless watercolor pencils by Tim Holtz and Ranger. The company is Ranger. And a really nice set of colors. Definitely will be using these for backgrounds for starting off a page so that it's not as daunting. Sometimes you can use watercolor pencils and watercolors to basically coat your page or put an undercoat on things so that you're not having to use as many color pencils, or it gives you that washed look on your page. So I will be using these probably tomorrow for the first part of a buddy color that I am doing with Poet Spice, as we talk about all of the things that are going to change on the channel, all of the changes that I'm going to be making in the other groups that I'm in as well, the Discord, Facebook, and Patreon. So stay tuned for all of that. If you enjoy watercolor and enjoy colored pencils, the Ranger Woodless Color Pencils might be something that you want to look into. All right, guys, with that, thank you all very much for watching. Of course, always remember to like, comment, and subscribe to any YouTube artist that you enjoy. And always remember to relax, color, and stay safe, everyone. Until next time, bye-bye for now.